With week 4 of Grandmasters for season 21 comes the Devil's Lair. This Nightfall is definitely one of the easier ones to do, so take advantage of double rewards this week and earn yourself some mad loot. Let's look at the build I used to beat this and what other weapons I might use just in case. The build I'm using for this Nightfall is from our other Arc Grenadier build. Go check out that video if you want to see more in-depth details on what I'm using and why I'm using it. For the subclass, I am using Thunder Crash. It's just a little bit easier to do a little bit of quick damage. If you need to do it on a champion or something like that, go ahead. I'm choosing to take Towering Barricade for a little bit of extra cover. It does have a little bit of a longer cooldown, but it is going to give you that added protection that you need. I'm also choosing Thunderclap and Pulse Grenades. Pulse Grenades are going to be key for this. Thunderclap isn't necessary, but I do like the range that you have with it. Pairing this with Knockout and Touch of Thunder so that we're going to be amping up our Pulse Grenades to the max. So we're going to have lingering pulse grenades that are going to last longer. They're also going to jolt targets, so now it's going to cause overload champions to be stunned and do extra damage to enemies around them. Also taking Spark of Resistance so that we have that added damage protection. And then I'm also taking Spark of Ions. This is where it differs just a little bit, making it so that when we defeat a jolted target, we create an Ionic Trace. This is going to help generate a few more Ionic Traces, and because we are running Elemental Charge on our boots, this is going to make it so that we are getting back Elemental Charge a little bit quicker. And since this is a GM, we are trying to stay back a little bit further, and we can't always go and pick up the orbs that we are creating, so this will help us get back a little bit more armor charge. Overall for the mods, I'm taking Heavy Ammo Finder and Scout so that we can create more heavy ammo for us and our team, as well as access to assets since we are throwing as many grenades as possible. We're now creating orbs with our grenades. We're taking Grenade Kickstart to get our grenades back even quicker. Impact Induction so that we can use our melee to power up our grenade one more time. I'm also choosing Arc Resistance and Void Resistance. You could go double Arc Resistance. I'm choosing Void Resistance since there is a decent amount of Void that is in this strike. When you are at the final boss, there's all those servitors shooting at you. Honestly, this or solar could also be good since there are quite a few enemies that also have solar. I'm also choosing Concussive Dampener so that any AoE is going to be reduced. We're also pairing this with Innervation and Recuperation so we get a little bit of health back and grenade energy whenever we pick up an orb. And then as we mentioned before, Elemental Charge to create more armor charge whenever we are picking up those Ionic Traces that are coming towards us. And finally, we're taking Powerful Attraction so that we can use our Barricade to collect any nearby orbs, as well as Reaper so that whenever we do use our Barricade, we can generate an orb on our next weapon kill. And then finally, Bomber so that we get a little bit more grenade energy whenever we do use our Barricade. For the weapons, I might change this up a little bit, but I wanted to have a generic overload stunning champion machine so that whenever we didn't have our grenades, which we pretty much always do, so this isn't necessary, it's more of a backup plan. We do have Thunderlord to be able to do a little bit more damage since it is arc threat. So we are doing more damage with this and stunning overloads if we need to. And then I chose to take Rufus's Fury so that we could have that barrier. I did choose to take Null Composure so that we could break the shields on the 4 servitors at the end. This isn't necessary. You could take any other fusion rifle, though I do think fusion rifle or forbearance are your best options. If I were to run this back, I'd probably take Hothead and Wish Ender for the barrier, and then we have our overload stunning with our grenades so that we have both champion stuns capable. Wish Ender is going to be a little bit better since there are certain portions of the strike where you do want to stay further back, and Wish Ender's going to do a ton of damage to enemies at all ranges, whereas something like Rufus's Fury isn't going to do the same. Hothead, some people like to use rocket launchers, so that is another great alternative, though I would take anything that is arc that can do damage. If you have another machine gun or something like that, go for that. Now let's jump into the tips and tricks that might help you throughout running this strike. When it comes to this first section, you can actually just hop on your Sparrow and skip a lot of this stuff. There's one overload champion at the very back, so just jump on your Sparrow, immediately fly all the way to the very back, and then when you get to this area, it's good to stay off to the right. You can either go in this room here or jump back up over here. And right there, we just passed the overload champion, so make sure you take him out so you can get platinum rewards. But after that, you can just go ahead and move on. When it comes to this next area, you want to slowly make your way through. There is a barrier champion at the back of this room, so take out these enemies, then focus on melting him down at the end. After that, there is going to be an overload champion and a few more adds in the next room, so we'll move on to that. So moving up to this room, I like to stay in this area. You can easily get a little bit of cover, and then your grenades are actually going to do a ton of damage here. Not only are they going to stun the overloads, but they're also going to jolt targets and then cause damage throughout everywhere. So throw your grenades, take down this overload. There's going to be some wizards on your left, so just be a little bit careful. They can melt you pretty quick. Use your barricade if you need to get a little bit of cover, but you can always push back if you need to. When you're pushing up to this next room, you do have a barrier champ in the back. Be sure to clear out this first room before you do move on, or else you do have some enemies coming from behind. That's what I'm doing here, making sure our team is clear from behind. So we are going to have a barrier champion and then a few overload champions. Take your time. This is just the start, so you don't need to rush anything. There are a ton of wizards and a ton of things that can hurt you, so I like to throw grenades here. As you can see, it's going to be spreading a lot of arc damage throughout and creating ionic traces to get our grenades back even more. So I like to stay back, use these pillars as cover, and then slowly work your way through. Our teammates pop his super here for Chaos Reach. That is good, but he pushes up a little bit too far. I don't want to use mine because there's too many enemies, so I'm trying to stay back. And this is where something like Wish Ender could be super useful. There are 2 Vandals in the back with the sniper rifles, and they hurt. So if you did have Wish Ender, it would be probably a little bit better for this area, since you do have a couple enemies with snipers in the back. They can really do a lot of damage. So, you know, that is something to be careful of. You know, I get hit here and then it basically almost kills me. So don't over peak this. It's definitely better to play your life. Like I said, go ahead, slowly work your way through this and kill everything, and then we'll move on to the next part. So now that we got everything killed, we want to hack the mainframe, and then we're going over to sit by this tanker on the left side. For the first wave, everything spawns top left of here. So this is going to give us a decent amount of cover, and everything's going to push up towards us. There might be 1 or 2 enemies in the back, but let them do their thing. Using grenades here is just absolutely massive because everything kind of groups around this corner. You just chuck grenades, and then it spawns the jolt between all of them, damaging all of them. And you can constantly get back your grenades because you have ionic traces coming over and over to you. If you do see grenades, that's where I'm popping my barricade to block them. It's super helpful, and then you do have a little bit of cover, so if you need to push forward, do some damage, and push back, do that. Take your time. We do see that we have 1 captain left. He stood in the back, so we are going to go and kill him, and then the next wave, I believe it's Shanks, are going to spawn. But use this tanker as cover. In the second wave, there's actually, so like right now it still says 0 to 3 in the left side. In the second wave, there's actually a bunch of stuff that does spawn on the right of us. So I like to play on this side of the tanker. A couple of my teammates are playing on the right side, and that's fine for this first wave. But when it comes to that second wave, just be careful. There is going to be stuff that spawns to your right, and that's where you can use the tanker as a little bit of cover. Again, just popping out and throwing a grenade is going to do a ton of damage. So like I said, now we get to the second wave, and my teammate doesn't see it, but thankfully we have our pulse grenades that are going to linger, stay a little bit longer, and do more damage. So we're going to chuck a grenade down right where they're spawning, so immediately taking a bunch of damage. And look at that, we've already thrown 2 grenades, and we already have a 3rd back, almost a 4th coming back right now too. So again, chuck as many grenades as you possibly can. Use your melee to get back a little bit more grenade energy if you are, you know, a little bit safe. So slowly work your way through. If you do have Wish Ender, it's great because you can do a little pop shot damage and kill everything in sight. That's pretty much it. So use this tanker as cover and then work your way through. So now we have everything killed. When it comes to this area, you don't really have to kill these guys, but there is an overload champion in the back, so we do want to kill him. I'm going to go ahead and chuck a grenade so it stuns them. It's not too complicated. Just go ahead and kill him and then move on to the next section. So when you come out here, this is where things get a little bit interesting. You do have a barrier champ, and I like to take him out as quick as possible since he does give the immunity to all of his friends. We do have a teammate that is on Strand Titan, which is a fairly good subclass as well if you want to use. So he is going to be able to stun him and no longer, you know, be able to put up his barricade. So we're easily able to take him out. Work your way through section by section. Clear out all the enemies here, and then we're going to use this building as cover. There are snipers on the right and the left, so take out those snipers on the right and the left. Right here is on the left side, and the right side is just past the building. And then there are a ton of enemies down in the middle, but what you want to do is just take out the tanker, the big walker that's all the way in the back. If you can take him out, then you can start moving on to the next area. Otherwise, you're going to have enemies that keep spawning over and over again. So what I like to do, I like to focus on these brigs first, take out the brigs, and then focus on that walker. The brigs do a decent amount of damage, so just play it safe. I see that both of my teammates are right next to me, and I don't really like to play directly on top of them in case that walker does shoot a sniper shot and kill us. So I like to play different areas. You can play up top here, you can play down below, move around if you need to find a little bit of cover. Right there, you see me trying to shoot, and I realize that, you know, those guys just aren't going to die from me. If I had Wish Ender, I'd probably take out those snipers, but take out these brigs. It's pretty easy if you focus on one and then focus on the next, but like you see right there, my 2 teammates are standing right next to each other, and then the walker takes them out. So be wary of that. Try to spread out. Don't stand in the same spot, and you should be good. Slowly clear out these 2 brigs, and then take out the walker. So now we've taken out both of the brigs. It's just the walker. I throw a god nade, and then I realize that I can actually throw grenades all the way from back here, and those grenades are going to do a ton of damage. Also, you can see there's a skiff coming over on the top left side of the screen. Be careful of those since it is arc threat. their turrets hit very hard. So when those are coming in, you know, try to take a little bit of cover. But what I like to do here, you can use your barricade to get back a little bit more grenade if you do have bomber equipped on your mark. And I'm just going to keep chucking grenades since I don't really have too much long range and I don't want to waste too much ammo. But the main objective here is to take out that walker. And if you have Wish Ender, you can do it from here and it's going to be super easy. Once you take out that walker, you're not going to have these ads continuously respawn, and it'll just make this part a whole heck of a lot easier. So if I were to redo this, I definitely would take Wish Ender over the setup that I have, but I wanted to make sure that no matter what, we could always stun overloads, which is why I took this loadout in the first place. But as you can see, we're getting that walker slowly worked down, and then we're going to work our way up, killing champions and taking cover when we need to be able to do that. So now that the walker's dead, we do have a few champions to take care of. This is where I'm stunning my champions. And again, you can pop your super here if you need to. Try to burn down these champions as quick as possible. I like to hang out in this hallway, but that's also because I have a barricade. There are a ton of things on the left side. You could sit back a little bit further if you needed to, but I was fairly confident in what I could do. So I'm taking this hallway and trying to do poke damage from here. My teammates are doing it from the front, so we're kind of spreading out who they're shooting at and all of that. I do have the grenades that can actually jolt targets, so I'm just going to continuously throw grenades, stunning these overloads, and then we're going to take down all the overloads and all the champions and everything, and then we're going to move on to the final boss room. So getting to the final boss room, take out all these enemies, and then the boss is actually going to start the damage phase. There is an overload, so just be careful of that. I believe it's actually 2 overloads, so take out all the enemies. I believe you have to take them out before the boss even lets you do damage to them. So we like to take them out, and then we're going to move off to the left side and use that as cover. So now it's actually started, we're going to use this room off to the left. You can use the little hallway as well, but we like to use this room since you can do a decent amount of poke damage from here. My teammates are going to continuously shoot with Wish Ender to do damage. I'm not going to try to waste too much of my ammo, but be careful. You do have enemies that can push up because they are melee, but use this doorway as cover. Try not to stay on top of each other. That's just why I was using the window to shoot out. Then you can also use this left hallway to shoot out any of the enemies coming from the left. But slowly work your way out and just, you know, kind of poke, peek, do as much damage as you can, taking out all the enemies and then damaging the boss once more. There's only 2 more overloads at the very end, so you don't really need to worry about that right now, but make sure when you get to that last segment, you do kill those 2 overloads before anything else. So now that we got the first phase done, this is where I like to have the null composure since it can do the void damage to break those shields. It's absolutely not necessary. If you want to take another fusion, fusions are great for this area. It's what I like to use to burn down those servitors and then get back to the damage phase. So now that we are on the second set of servers, you can see in the bottom left hand side a champion has appeared, and there is going to be one more that's going to appear right now. So there are 2 overload champions. So remember, when you are doing this phase, kill the 2 overload champions in order to get the platinum rewards. That way you don't move on without killing them. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to kill those, kill all the other enemies that are kind of getting in our way, and then kill off the boss for the final phase. And just like that, you've beaten Devil's Lair Grandmaster Nightfall for this season. It is double reward, so as you can see, we're getting a ton of exotics, a ton of ascendant shards, and the buzzard adept sidearm that's a primary. So if you like this video, remember to slap that like button, subscribe to see more content like this. See you in the next one. Peace out.